The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And for all the broadcasting and programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. And for the X Zone TV show, well, this is where we gets a little complicated. On Simul TV, we are channel number 21, and that's www.simultv.com. But we're also on Jungo TV. We're also on Con TV. We're also on iLaunch throughout the United States and 50 other countries. And, of course, we're on, I just had it right there. Oh, Comcast. There you go. And every Tuesday at 9:30, right here in Hamilton on Cable 14. My guest this hour is Michel Deschamps. He's a former MUFON member and former provincial section director for Sudbury, Ontario. Since July 1974, he has had 27 separate UFO sightings, including 2 captured on video. He has appeared on numerous radio and television shows. And so joining me from the far north, where, according to Michel, just before we went on air, they are 14 inches short of a snowfall record in Sudbury, Ontario. Michel Deschamps. Michel, welcome to the X Zone.
Thanks, Rob.
Kind of cold up there, eh?
It's been cold, but it's very, very snowy. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen this much snow since at least the late 70s.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Michel, tell our listeners how you started getting involved with UFO. What was the catalyst for the work you do in UFOs?
That's a question that's been asked repeatedly. Sometimes I'm not sure if it was the interest that came first or the sighting. I had a sighting when I was age 9, but then that sighting wasn't confirmed until many, many years later. But a few years after, well, actually the next year after that, when I turned age 10, I heard the term flying saucer for the first time, and I said to myself, I guess I may have found the topic that I want to study as in-depth as I possibly can. I was already involved in the paranormal. It seems that age 9 is a pivoting age for a lot of, whether you're a ghost investigator or UFO investigator or a Bigfoot investigator. Seems that age 9 is it seems to be the right age where everybody that seems to have gotten their start. And the sighting that I had when I was 9, it was a spherical metallic object hovering above treetop level.
Now, you said that would it be fair to say that you started your journey because of your interest in the paranormal?
Yeah.
And what was it in the paranormal that got you so interested?
Well, I came up with a lot of weird things that I would tell my mom, and my mom couldn't figure out where the hell it came from. I would say when I was young, I'd say I either wanted to be a priest or I wanted to be dead. And she said, "What?" I says, yeah, because death is a transition between one life state to another. It's the greatest journey you could ever undertake. And I blurted this out at age 8 or 9, and at that time also not long after, a TV show called Project UFO was on the air.
Yeah.
Like I said, I heard the term flying saucer, and I decided to specialize or mainly focus onto UFOs, but I also researched the Bermuda Triangle in depth, Virgin Mary apparition sightings, ghost sightings, Bigfoot, Loch Ness. I looked at everything since a very young age, but I decided to branch off into UFOs, not knowing that I was going to have that many sightings.
Now, according to the information you sent us, you've had 27 separate UFO sightings.
Yep.
What do you attribute to the fact that you've had so many UFO sightings, and there are many people who have had none?
First of all, I'm not a big sports fan, so I don't sit in front of the TV. I do watch a lot of TV shows and sci-fi. I grew up on sci-fi, as a matter of fact, ever since I saw the lunar landing live on television back in '69 when I was 5. And I don't watch sports. I'm not interested in anything but UFOs. And each time I would have a sighting, well, the sightings around here mostly, I think, are because of the mine sites. We had, well, I guess we're still considered the nickel capital of the world. But at one time, before they got bought out, we had the two large mining giants in the world. We had Falconbridge Limited and Inco. And a lot of the sightings seem to have gravitated around all the mine sites, not just here in Sudbury, but up in Timmins, Kirkland Lake, North Bay, of course, which is has a military base, or had a military base, an extensive one in the 50s. That is about almost 2 hours east of here. And so for different areas, it depends what the magnet is for UFOs. In Blind River, it's the nuclear refinery formerly known as the El Dorado Nuclear Refinery, but now it's called Systems Management Facility. Very, very nonchalant name for something that produces radioactive pellets for Chalk River and Deep River nuclear power plants. And so they have UFO sightings there because of that. And oddly enough, in Blind River, too, J. Allen Hynek had a camp there, has a camp. His family has a camp. And he actually had coined that area one of the primary hotspots of UFO sightings in Ontario, Lake de Borgne, Blind River area. Here in Sudbury, it's the mine sites, and there's been a lot of reported sightings. Actually, there was a sighting of a black triangular object not too long ago over Garson Mine, or the town of Garson, just about at the same time that a rock burst or an earthquake took place, about maybe 2.5 to 3 weeks ago now.
Is it possible that that what you're actually witnessing up there are a lot of new military aircraft?
No, there's no use for the military to be here. I've been seeing these things like way before even drones came into existence. And also, during each sighting that I've had, which in appearance they all seem to be different, I would study the behavior, not just gawk at the sighting and say, "Ooh, wow, UFO." I would actually study the behavior, because I knew at some point in time this would be a point of argument for people saying, "Well, how can you claim to be a self-trained or self-taught observer and know what the UFOs behave like?" I knew it had to be something. I'm really meticulous when it comes to attention to detail, especially when it comes to UFOs. And so I studied each and every sighting in detail, watched how they moved, how they came into to my line of sight, how they left the area. And I'm pretty sure with my gut instincts that I'm right on the money. Military devices, we've seen. I've collected several pictures of what the different military drones that are in existence, whether they're water drones or air, air drones of any kind, whether they're shaped like small planes, unmanned small planes that actually go in really fast to take photographs over some enemy country and then come back. They seem to be typical. The usual drones, while they don't have any wings, but they wouldn't have the same flight characteristics as UFOs would have. And so it took a long time. It even took me the first 10 sightings I've had to realize that there was something really, really odd going on, and try to match it up against conventional aircraft or military aircraft. And since I grew up near the Sudbury airport,
Right.
I familiarized myself pretty damn quick with what aircraft look like, both in the daytime and at night, with the light configurations and all that.
Now, the 27 different sightings that you've had to date, Michel,
Yeah.
is there any, are there similarities? I mean, besides the fact that the craft can't be identified, but are there other similarities at time of day, type of day, weather, or is it all across the board?
Most of my sightings I've had were oddly in the fall. Even the one landing physical trace case that I investigated had taken place in September, but I hadn't gotten there until the following June.
All right, Michel, we're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger here because I have to take my first break. And Michel, is there a website where people can go and visit and learn more about you?
Yes, www. I'll spell it out. N as in Normand, OUFORS.com. It stands for Northern Ontario UFO Research and Study, but it includes way more than just Northern Ontario.
All right, we've got to go. Michel, please stand by. Michel Deschamps and I return on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Michel Deschamps is my special guest this hour, Exonation. His website is www.noufors.com. And Michel, before we went to the break, you were telling us about a landing with trace evidence that you investigated. Tell us about that rather very interesting event.
Well, I initially heard about it from a radio broadcast, from a local station, where they were talking about crop circles. And when they mentioned that they had found a couple in the area, I got a hold of the broadcaster, and she then referred me to somebody who had taken pictures and had been on the site. When I met the person, all he gave me was a strip of negatives, and I couldn't really make out what was on the photo until I had the pictures developed.
Right.
And then right away I knew I wasn't looking at crop circles. This was something on hard surface with a layer of gravel, where the gravel had been blown away, leaving two, I guess you could call them indentations. The area is a solid surface of limestone, about 80 to 90 feet in diameter, completely surrounded by trees, mind you, and not visible at all from the main road at this location on Manitoulin Island. And the gravel was blown away, leaving these two donut-shaped indentations. So after talking to Ted Phillips, who is the leading authority on physical trace cases, turns out there was two small objects that actually landed next to each other. Maybe one was assisting the other. We don't know. The only report I have of lights in the sky was this man named Keith Misselbrook, who lived nearby. He's passed away by now. And he had a breathing problem, and he was awake at 4 o'clock in the morning going to get water at his sink, and he looked out the window and saw two lights descending side by side. The area itself is a quarter mile away from the main road, and people would say, well, maybe it's a hoax or whatever. Well, if it's a hoax, I would have placed it right next to the road where there would have been well-traveled traffic.
Sure.
But to be in the woods where it was, it just didn't make any sense.
Was it a clearing in the woods where this was found?
Yeah.
And how big would you say this area was where the gravel was basically blown away from?
The two circles seem to be between 6 to 9 feet in diameter. with the gravel, a mound of gravel in the middle. And then when we got on site the first time, because I'd been there 3 times within a year and a half of this, so it lasted through a winter, never got wiped out after that. It was there like 2 years later. It looked like there was dried cake, like mud, dried mud, that was in the circle. But then the gravel itself, you could not remove it from the limestone surface unless you used a scraper. I found that really weird. There's no no residue there, that no glue, nothing that would indicate that it was glued to the surface of the limestone, but yet it was. And on the outer perimeter of the circles, the gravel was just as hard. But on the surface itself, where the donut-shaped indentations were,
Right.
you could sweep the gravel loosely, no problem whatsoever.
Now, the night in question,
Yeah.
was there any unknown air traffic that was reported by Transport Canada?
Not that I know. Not that I know.
How about the military?
Neither. I was the only civilian investigator, supposedly, that was there.
Did the OPP receive any calls?
The OPP, I don't think they received calls about that one, but I do have a write-up in some old Ontario journal by this OPP officer that I personally know, who actually investigated another landing case. He's actually photographed crouching down next to another landing site on Manitoulin Island. Mindamoya area was his beat. And I'm trying to get the story off of him because he's retired now.
Sure.
And I heard of another third location site that actually took place near Meldrum Bay at the most western end of the island, where 3 circles surrounded by 4 pod marks were found.
All right, let's go back to this one that we're talking about, that the witness saw these lights descending into the woods. That was how far from the highway?
I'd say a quarter mile.
Okay, a quarter mile from the highway at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Was there any sampling taken and sent to an independent lab for analysis of the rocks and this caked material?
No. Sadly, no. Because I pretty well botched that up. It was my first time ever. It took a while before we even found the site. And then even the guy that I was with, who was not very reliable, had called in my provincial director at that time, because I was with MUFON. And he drove up all the way from Ottawa, and we looked through, we walked through and ran through 400 acres of land, and then found out it was the wrong location. Then I ran into the property owner, who only checked his property once a week. He lived in the town of Spring Bay, but the property itself where the landing took place is a quarter mile out of there. And so he took me to the property, and that's why I found the whole thing very, very highly unusual, because it was out of sight and out of from the area where they actually lived.
But what is so unusual about that? Because most UFO landings, if they are UFOs in fact, for example, the Randlesham Forest, that wasn't beside a highway, that was in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
So what's unusual?
Well, just that the fact that there was two marks, and like 2 circular marks, and that, like I said, there didn't seem to be any trace. And the funny thing is, it was a gravel. I couldn't see how it could be a gravel pit, because the soil itself, the ground was hard limestone surface, but there was trucks that used to go through there to haul out gravel.
Right.
And this happened in mid-September of 1990, and I got there in June of 91, and they were still very, very visible. The gravel was still pretty well stuck to the limestone. And the last time I was there was in 1993, and then by then you could have swept the entire area, and the gravel finally came right off the limestone with no problem. It swept the area clean.
But if the gravel had been on top of the limestone, like you said, for so many years, isn't it possible that it was just caked on?
No, you can make out the difference right away. There was just like some oddities about the whole thing. Like I said, you needed a scraper to scrape it off, but the mud itself came off easily. It was just like some peculiarities about the whole thing. And plus, in the ensuing years and the years before then, actually more the years after, I found out how much of a hotspot Manitoulin is. I mean, I spoke to a lot of people at First Nation reservations, and communities, and there'd been a lot of sightings there. I mean, almost as many there, if not more, than what's been taking place in Sudbury, or even, well, Blind River is near the most western point of the island. So I wasn't surprised at all over time, after talking to a lot of people and witnesses. It just, everything clicked together.
Everything clicked together, but were
Yeah.
any of these reports actually investigated by a governmental agency or a scientific agency?
Not that I know.
Why not? If it was of such significance.
Well, probably because they were reported to me, and I wasn't much trusting of. I'm still not much trusting of the government for coming out. That's why I am not looking at the even contemplating the idea that there's going to be disclosure. So if there's any disclosure of any type at any scale, it's going to be from people like us who are actually wind up in the field,
But
being called into these sightings.
No disrespect, but
Yeah.
why would anybody believe what you would say? You're not an expert.
After all these years, you're damn right I'm an expert.
No, not really. Because if you were an expert,
Well,
you would have taken some samples.
yeah, I would have taken some samples, and I didn't really have anything to take samples with. I do have samples of some of the rock that eventually broke off the actual landing site,
Right.
but never got them tested.
Is it possible
we
that
checked for radiation using compasses, but nothing really spun out of normal.
okay? But did it ever occur to somebody that may have been a helicopter that landed?
No,
Why not?
No. No, because there's again similarities with that and the Delphos, Kansas landing site, and a lot of the other ones that Ted Phillips investigated. The shape was the same, the appearance was the same, the medium may have been different, because some of the landing sites I've seen are on grass, where the donut shape is actually where grass is no longer growing. This was different. This was on limestone with a 3/4 inch layer of gravel that was simply
But
blown
once
away.
again, why could it not have been a military craft, a helicopter, a civilian aircraft? Why does it have to be a UFO?
Because it's private property, and
Yeah.
the clearing itself is too with the trees around there. It would not have been a place where a helicopter would have dared to land. And it was private property as well, and with traffic going through there, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like people trying to say that the military is flying over here, going on joyrides, being reported as UFOs, when there's no point of the military being up here.
But
flying
on
big black
the same course of thought,
Yeah.
just because it doesn't make sense doesn't mean it isn't so. You've got to check out all your leads when doing an investigation, not selective leads. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, X Zone Nation, you can get your complimentary copy of the X Chronicles newspaper at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. And if you're interested in finding out who's who in the world of the paranormal and parapsychology, New Age, metaphysics, and so on, in your area, just go to www.xzdd, wait a second, X Zone directory, xzdww.net. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away. www.noufors.com is Michel Deschamps' website, and he is a UFO investigator up in Sudbury, Ontario. Just getting back to the site, it concerns me that when UFO researchers go investigate a site, they miss asking the authorities, like, for example, a call to air traffic control or to Transport Canada, did you have any unknown traffic in this area? Yes or no? The Ontario Provincial Police, local municipal police forces, the Canadian Armed Forces. Why not ask these people? They're the experts.
Yeah, at that time I didn't think about that.
Oh, I see.
Even when I had my sighting in 1992, that I was able to call. But now I wouldn't even know where to call now to find out. Let's say, what is the cloud ceiling, or
Well, that's easy enough.
some
Environment
places,
Canada. You go on their
Yeah.
website, or you can go to 24-hour radar track and get all the information there.
Yeah, well, I have that on my cell phone now too.
Yeah.
But some of this stuff came into being after sort of botching things
Sure.
up, and then learning by trial and error.
What do you think about the fact that the Canadian government no longer wants anything to do with UFOs? That what they've done is they've tossed it over to Chris Rutowski.
I'm not so sure that he gets everything, including the juicy cases. I'd be surprised if he gets like the good radar cases, or any. Well, God forbid any landing would actually still take place, because for some odd reason the UFOs seem to have gone on to do something else, because this is no longer the heydays of UFO car
Sure.
encounters, or abductions is the only thing that seems to happen in the occasional sighting. But when you go back through the 40s and 50s and 60s, the sightings used to take place all the time. And
Yeah.
we're talking close encounters where they're swooping down at cars.
Well, it seems that all these UFO sightings have kind of petered off ever since the advent of everyone having a camera.
Well, maybe the aliens know that we have
Or
those
maybe a lot of these UFO sightings were made up.
after talking to a lot of people, you can tell from looking in their eyes that they. I've had people come up and try to pull the wool over my eyes, and I can tell a bullshitter a mile away.
Yeah, do you want to watch your language, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
But you know what I mean? It's just after many times of seeing something, yeah, maybe I'm biased towards UFOs, but I still won't jump right away. Some people assume that I will call something a UFO within seconds of watching it. I won't just do that. I'll watch it for an hour. If it takes 2 hours, winter depending, because I'm not going to freeze my butt outside looking at something. But
Are you telling me that you've actually had sightings that have lasted up to 2 hours?
No, the longest one was probably a good 20 minutes, maybe. Because I saw it from the three different vantage points. And that was the one near the old abandoned radar base, which no longer exists.
Isn't that rather unusual for anyone to have a sighting that lasts that long?
Not really, I don't think. I haven't counted on my hands like how many people have had sightings that exceeded an hour, but there have been people that have seen things that are pretty close to that long, that length of time.
Earlier, you were saying that you've learned how to be a trained observer, and that you've been able to observe, with credibility, some of the 27 UFOs that you yourself have experienced and sighted. I asked you earlier, and I think we got sidetracked, about the behavior of all these UFOs. Did they all look alike? Did they all?
No. Some of the stuff some of the UFOs. That's the thing that I'm trying to argue against. People saying, "Oh, it's a drone." So this is before drone times, before drones came into existence, and plus, I don't know of any drone that we're piloting that is an actual source of light. Like, what keeps it afloat? What makes it work? Like, if you don't have any props on it, you don't have any wings on it, and it's a light source. I have yet to see anything like that. And trust me, I've seen Chinese lanterns as well, and they're not very controllable. They go by the whim of the winds, and they'll anything else will fly against the wind, crosswinds, will shoot up and down, side to side. The objects I saw, some of them, they did the weirdest maneuver. One, actually, I described the best way I could sketch it. It looked like a white candy cane in the sky. It was as if it had been a plane. We're talking about a plane that's going level flight, and then all of a sudden going nose down, and then reversing direction, and leaving a white candy cane of of white in the sky, and it doesn't make any sense
Like
at
a
all.
contrail?
Yeah, but not like we're talking like a contrail that would be um, not like a plane can turn around, but not, first of all, not that abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wouldn't have, we're talking like you look at a candy cane. I mean, it's a very sharp curve.
Sure is, yeah.
And I'm looking at it from the side. I'm not looking at it looking straight up. I'm looking at it from the side. So a plane taking a nosedive and then completely reversing itself while flying upside down would be the best direction. That would be the best explanation to say that's what this did. This, if there was a plane, it's a plane that flew level flight, right side up, nose down, and then reverse direction, but was flying upside down. It doesn't make any sense at all.
It
that was
doesn't,
one object
no.
that I saw.
All right, but once again, let me ask you some very basic questions. Were you the only person to witness this?
Apparently, yes.
Okay, so there were no reports made to Transport Canada, the Ontario Provincial Police, or anywhere else.
A lot of the sightings, sadly, I had no witnesses whatsoever, and it's I've seen the craziest stuff in broad daylight too at work, and I couldn't leave work to follow the thing with my camera, or even to go and get a camera.
Right.
But I would just watch this thing. It was a beautiful disc. One other sighting was this beautiful disc with whatever was coming off of it. Was it a mist or whatever? It was almost like fishtailing behind this disc, and I watched that thing for 15 minutes until it was a little cotton ball in the sky. We're talking broad daylight. And I caught it like mid-flight. If I had looked to the northwest, I would have seen it coming in. But I was outside taking the snow off the cars at the dealership I was working at the time, and never had it. My camera was a 110 camera. It's a simple 110, and if I had left it in the glove compartment, we're talking winter, the camera could have froze and not worked properly. And I didn't want to risk losing my job for running off on my 15-minute break or whatever I was doing outside just to photograph. That's one of the biggest arguments I get too. How come the UFO pictures are not ever clear? I said, well, you're talking about a light source at night. You can't make out what's behind it producing the light. And in the daytime, if it's an oval, a white oval, I mean, since when do we fly white oval shaped objects? I don't know of anything like that. The more recent video taken by a cell phone was taken broad daylight by people who were snow shoveling in Blind River. And my perception is that this thing seemed to be at 6,000 feet altitude, 6 to 7 miles away from the eyes of the people who were filming it with a cell phone. Because you can make out it's an oval shape. If it had been a plane, you would have seen shadows where the wings jut out. You would have seen the tail fin at that distance. But all you could see is a little oval passing right below the moon in a beautiful blue sky, broad daylight. And that's my assumption. Maybe people will accuse me, well, how can you be sure it's not at 20,000 feet? Well, first of all, you're looking almost horizontally. You're not looking straight up. I've seen planes at 35,000 feet. I've seen planes at 29,000 feet. And I've seen planes at 6,000 feet. And I photographed all of them to show the difference of what they look like in comparison to these UFOs that some people occasionally get a good shot of. But it's rare. It's becoming rarer now. That's why even I'm now left to go back and just stick with the old cases of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, because now people can play with these digital photos, CGI, whatever, and you can't trust anybody unless you know the actual photographer. I've had Ken Klingbeil's a good friend of mine who's photographed some amazing things with the most vivid colors that you can't find on aircraft, even drones. And I trust his photographs. But other than that, I don't trust anything that's modern. I mean, you'd have to have something literally land in front of you and be sure that it's not man-made or military in order to say, yeah, I've seen one. But I'm left to just becoming an archivist now. I'll investigate occasionally, but it's too much wear and tear on the vehicle if you're going down dirt roads. And maybe a lot of sightings will go unreported that way, officially or unofficially. If people are still not made up their minds that we have an alien presence on their planet, then there's a big problem.
Why?
And I'm already way past that.
Why? How can you say that? You once again, you're a believer. Not everybody's a believer.
I'm a knower. When you see UFOs, belief is based on faith and not having to have seen. I have seen, therefore I know. I don't believe.
All right, but do you know for a fact that they're UFOs from another planet?
Yeah.
How do you know that for a fact?
because a friend of mine, we worked at INCO, actually has seen flying saucers in close proximity with a 600 power telescope in the late 60s, and was able to see the 5 beings inside the saucer, with one that was dressed in black. And
All
the
right,
other
hold on. We've
dressed
got to
in
take
silver.
our final break here. When we come back, let's talk about this. This is very interesting. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Michel Deschamps. And for more information about Michel, visit his website at www.noufors.com. And we'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Michel Deschamps is our guest for this hour, www.noufors.com. Now, Michel, take us through, and take your time doing this, of this last sighting that we were talking about, that you actually looked through a 600-power telescope and saw 5 occupants of a UFO. Take us through that.
No, that wasn't my sighting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but the recording of this man's multiple first-hand, second-hand, and third-hand stories. He was a tradesperson, a master welder at INCO.
Okay.
Those audio files are on my website, on my audio clips page.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the first one posted there. You see his picture right there. His name is Don Campbell.
Oh, okay,
he's now 82 years old.
All right, but tell us about the story. I thought that you said that you had seen the UFO and the 5 occupants. I'm sorry, that was my mistake then. But once again, how do you know for a fact that the UFOs that you have seen and are seeing are from another planet?
I guess you could say I use my gut instincts, because I've looked at these things, like I said, the 27 sightings, and I've read other reports too. I've gathered as much as I could from other people and their source of information, and put them all on the website, so it's just one-stop shopping kind of thing.
Okay.
I guess. And the thing is, it's like there's too much arguing backwards and forwards. If we're still stuck in 2019 and deciding whether or not we're being visited, I've got 85 plus 1 photograph of aliens that were seen that were not part of the abduction phenomena. And I've had to separate those from the ones that are the repeat offenders, as I call them, the ones that are always seen and reported by the abductees themselves. It's to show that there's at least the U.S. military says they've classified 52 species. I've classified 85 plus 1.
Wait a sec. Hold on here.
Yeah.
Who in the U.S. military has ever said on the record that there are any species of extraterrestrials?
Yeah, Clifford Stone has said that the military has classified
okay,
52 species.
Just because he says it doesn't mean it's true.
Well, I've got sketches of 85 species, so whether they're being cataloged by the military, I don't know.
All right, but once again, it all comes down to credibility. This entire UFO scenario comes down to credibility. What you want to believe, what is fact. Now, just because somebody draws a sketch of an extraterrestrial and says, "Hey, Michel, I was abducted by this kind of person," do you just take that and say, "Okay, yeah, we'll add this to the pile"?
Isn't that what they always do? What does the military do with it?
Well,
why are we being? For instance, what is the NSA doing with all the data they're collecting off of our cell phone? What the hell is it for? Like,
it's none of my. Listen, if you have
So-
nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. I personally don't care what Big Brother wants to check me out, because go right ahead. Like everybody gets upset because This person has this information. This person has this information. They are getting it through nefarious means. Well, as soon as you go to the gas station and you buy gas with either your credit card or your debit card, there's a record. There's a record because of a passport. You've got a record because of your OHIP card, your driver's license, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Big deal. If you've got nothing to hide from anyone, you've got nothing to fear. When I start hearing people say, well, you know, Big Brother's this, that, and the other thing, to me, that raises a red flag, because what are you hiding? What don't you want people to know? So this is getting back to the UFO scenario.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people are making a lot of claims that they cannot substantiate. And like you yourself have said, UFO sightings are down. Mainstream media laughs at UFO reports. This entire thing with Tic Tac.
Yeah.
You know, that once again, this is something that is laughable. And yet there are those people out there who believe in their heart of hearts, for some unknown reason, that it's a spacecraft from another planet.
Oh, because of the way it behaved. Yep.
Look at the timeline of when this video came out. The video was released by the military after the Russians said they had a hypersonic weapon that could easily be undetected by the U.S. government and the U.S. forces. All of a sudden, the military releases this Tic Tac footage, which many members of the military have said on and off the record that it is our very own hypersonic weapon, hypersonic vehicle. Just as much to say to the Russians, ha, we've got one too, so there you go. But why does everybody put any advancement that is in the favor of peace, in the favor of equaling the playing field when it comes to military tactics, that it has to be something to do with aliens? You know, they talk about reverse engineering. They talk about, and the list goes on. And then you've got people like Bob Salas, who's, touting how the extraterrestrials or the UFOs destabilized the weaponry at, where was it, Maelstrom?
10 to 20 missiles.
Yeah, but he doesn't tell the other side of the story, where the co-commander sitting beside him, when he first heard about what Salas was saying, said, what the hell is he talking about? That never happened. So where does the public believe? Where do we put our faith? Do we put our faith in a bunch of people who have been caught lying, or do we put our faith in the people who are protecting us? That's the question. It comes to a point of credibility.
Nobody's protecting us.
Oh, come on.
Nobody's protecting us.
Come on.
No. The military couldn't care less about lighting UFOs. You know what?
Well, that's because they're not there.
I don't even believe that they can back engineer technology that's possibly 1 million years old.
That's because they're not there, Michel. It's nice to think that there's UFOs. Maybe you've seen one. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm telling you, when push comes to shove, what are you going to do? Call for an alien? Or you're going to call the military, you're going to call the police, you're going to call for help. Because as sure as God is my judge in heaven, there's no codes like 911 to call an alien, but there is for the police, there is for first responders, and God forbid, in case of an attack, the military would be there for us. So once again, the question is, where do you put your faith? Do you put it in something that very few see? Or do you put your faith where the facts lie? You can see the military, you can call the police, all those have been seen, and they're there for you. They're there for you. They don't care what time of day it is or night or where you are. They'll be there to help you once that call comes in. So my question is, who do you believe? Do you believe that there's extraterrestrials out there? And if they're out there, what are they here for? Maybe they're nefarious too. Who knows? Or do you believe? I don't see
any signs. My belief is, and it ties in with the abduction phenomena. I believe that one or two of the species actually had their hands in our creation, that they tweaked us over time. Virgin Mary was artificially inseminated. Jesus was one of theirs. And and I'm not the only one who thinks this. People are coming around to the same idea. And the fact that the abductions is a means by which they are monitoring our development as we go along, as we evolve. And they are always here. I believe there's a base on the far side of the moon. It's a perfect duck blind for them to keep watch instead of traveling back and forth to wherever they are from. It doesn't make any sense to me that they'll be traveling back and forth, come here, mutilate a few other cows, go back 1,000,000 miles away when they could be close by. There's bases underwater.
If they're so smart,
Yeah.
and if they can travel all this distance, why in the name of God would they need to keep on mutilating cows? Wouldn't one cow do? Now, come on,
I think it's something to do with genetic material. God forbid if they start eating cows just like we eat cows. I mean, I don't argue against people killing animals to feed themselves, but I have doubts that they actually have the same need for nutrients, the same kind of nutrients that we do. I mean, who knows what it's all about? That's why we don't have so many answers. That's why we're doing research. If we had all the answers, like as to where the aliens are from, where do they call themselves on their own planet, what are they called as a civilization, half of our job would be done. Half of our research would be done.
If this is such a pressing issue, how come there's not more members of the scientific community involved in this? Why is it only the amateurs?
Because the scientists have spent years going to school to know what they've come to know. It'd be like those astrophysicists like Jill Tarter and Seth Shorshak, who just don't want to have this stuff become real. Because
wait a sec. Seth Shostak. Whoa.
Yeah.
Seth Shostak from SETI. He's working with an organization that is seeking the search for extraterrestrials. Right? That's what SETI does. They scan.
It's a waste of time.
How do you know it's a waste of time?
Because UFOs are not using signals. They're coming here with their vehicles. They're that advanced. They don't use radio signals. They're not at our level. There's probably some that are developing at our level, but not to say that they're actually going to use radio signals to contact us.
Hey, Michel, I hate to do this, but our time is up. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I guess there's not a lot to do up in northern Ontario. 27 sightings. He's convinced that UFOs are real. He doesn't check with air traffic control. He doesn't check with the police, doesn't check with the military. I guess he doesn't check with anybody who could actually say, you know what? You're wrong. I know he got a little testy when I started pushing him. And you know what? Too bad. Just too bad. I want to believe. I really do. But I don't know. It's cold up there in them there hills. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.